Thank you, Lord. Praise your holy name. I feel my help coming now. Glory. Thank you, Jesus. Praise your holy name. For this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Because joy is the spirit of an overcomer. Did you hear what I just said? Joy is the spirit of an overcomer. Thank you, Lord. Praise your holy name. Thank you, Jesus. You may be seated. Thank you, Lord. I give honor to my Lord and Savior for allowing me to be here today. And I just want you folks to know that I'm here for one reason and one reason only. I'm here because I have cut covenant with God. Y'all hear what I said? I said I cut covenant with God. And I said, God, whatever door that you open for me, regardless of who or how many, even if it's the Marines, but Lord, if you open it for me, I will step through that door and I will share what you have placed in my heart with whoever on the other side. He keep opening up the doors and I keep stepping. I appreciate my lovely wife for those lovely comments that she made. And I am quick to tell people when I'm out speaking that in my house, I am head of my household. However, you know when you got mixed company, there's going to be a however. However, my wife is the neck. And she can turn that head anytime she wants to. And that was put into place by God, right? Because you see, as the head of your house, if you're trying to do everything by yourself, right? When it comes to the vision that God has given you for your household, if you as the head, right, trying to do everything on your own, you can't see but so much of that vision. But when you get your neck involved, you can see the whole doggone thing. That's why, brothers, in my house, my wife always right. She always right. And then for my brother, the set man of this house, woo! I don't know if y'all really know what a blessing y'all have. Now, I believe some of y'all know. But I met this great man of God, 4 weeks ago? You know, and we hooked up right then and there. Just like we've been knowing each other all our lives. And sometimes he be talking and he telling my story. Because we just so much alike. And I said, Lord, have mercy. What a blessing just to be in the presence. You know, I had to speak yesterday at a church in Winston-Salem. Then we drove down here 4 hours to get here. And we went out to dinner. We laughed. We talked. We had so much fun. It was like 9:30. And I didn't even want to go back to the room. Y'all got a blessing up in here. I'm telling you, got a blessing up in here. Now, I'm going to share one little thing because, see, you know, out of all the accolades that has been bestowed upon my life, and there have been a few, the one that I am most proud of and the one that I coveted the most is the fact that I was born to a sharecropper. My daddy was a sharecropper 11 of us in that little 4-room shack with no running water, right? But in that environment, in that old raggedy Silverado pickup truck that I was so ashamed of then, but I'm so proud of now, that sharecropper shared the wisdom that he received from God to me in that old truck. And one of the most important things he taught me, right? I'm still on your pastor here. When we used to have to go out there and top and suckle tobacco, and I know that most of y'all folks don't know nothing about that kind of stuff, being a sharecropper and whatnot, we had to top and suckle tobacco. And we had 4 rows and then a truck row. And my daddy would get in between them 2 rows, and he'd taking 2 rows at the same time, and my baby sister on one side, and I'm on the other side. He would get us out there beside him, and he said, "Stay with me," and he'd take off. And me and my sister, we right beside him, just topping and sucking as hard as we can to try to stay with him. That was my first leadership lesson from my daddy. He never told me to follow him. He said, "Stay with me." So you got to stay close to leadership. You can't follow leadership from a distance, right? Because some things are taught and some things are caught. And if you ain't close, you can't catch it. The second thing he was teaching me is that the leader set the pace. He's a pace setter. He said, "Stay with me." He set the pace. Pace ain't fast. Pace ain't slow. Pace is set. The set man of this house. Y'all got a blessing up in here? You got a blessing up in here. So I want to acknowledge that right off the top. You know, my wife and the set man in this house. And for the reason that I'm here today, because it is Veterans Day, I would once again like for all veterans to stand just for a moment. If all the veterans in the house would just stand for just a moment. Because, folks, give them a loud round of applause. That's what I'm talking about. Because they deserve it. You know, the book that we read, right? The book that we read says that there is no love stronger, right, than a man or woman who's willing to lay down their life for their friend. No love stronger than a man or woman who would lay down their life for their friends. And when we don that military uniform, when we take that vow, that's what we're saying. We're willing to lay down our lives for our friends, right? And the folks who wear the uniform, they don't do what they do because of the enemy that stand before them. They do what they do for their family and their friends and their community that stands behind them. So that's why we need to recognize them today. So let's give them another round of applause. And I'm going to salute you. Now, while I'm up here and I got this mic, I want to recognize another group. Because, see, they don't wear the uniform. They don't have no medals on their chest, right? But they serve just as well as we do. Those are families of those military folks, right? The wives, right, that married into the military, right? The children that was born into those military families. They didn't have a vote. We made the decision. They came along with it because of the love and respect and admiration for us. They stood by our side. So please, let's give them a round of applause too. Yeah. So thank you again for allowing me to be here to share what God has placed on my heart to share with you today. For those in the military, especially in the Army, we know that there's a difference between, right, a fairy tale and a war story. But we ain't going there today. But I'm going to tell my little testimony, right, because God has had his hands on my life before, as Jeremiah said, I knew you before you was conceived in your mama's womb. So Me and him been together for a long time, even when I didn't want to be a part of the game. Somebody know what I'm talking about. So if you allow me, Pastor said I had about 45 minutes and whatnot, you know. I done probably took up 15 of them. But my clock keeper right here, she got an eye on me. But anyway, several years ago, I was a lieutenant colonel in the North Carolina National Guard. And I was home one Thursday night, and I was cleaning out the garage. And my daughter, Jamie, the other JR in the family, she came to the door, and she said, "Daddy, there's an army man on the phone, and he wants to talk to you." So I immediately stopped what I was doing. I went to the telephone, and it was my brigade commander. I was a battalion commander at that time, and this is my brigade commander on the phone. And he said, "JR, how you doing tonight?" This is in 2004. The Gulf War was underway. He said, "How you doing tonight?" I said, "Sir, how should I be doing? When your brigade commander called you at home at night during a time of war?" He said, "Well, I'm going to get right to the point while I'm calling you." He said, "The two-star general there in Raleigh asked me to call you to get your thoughts and feelings about coming back and taking your battalion a second time and taking them to Iraq." I said, "Iraq? Is there any way we could go to Kuwait?" He said, "No." He said, "The mission is in Iraq." I said, "Well, sir, can I be very candid with you?" He said, "You can." I said, "Sir, well, if you don't mind, please tell that two-star general that I said that at the age of 18, I made a conscious decision to serve my country anytime, any place, and whatever capacity she deems necessary. And that has not changed. I just need to know if I got to go." He said, "Between me, you, and the light post," he said, "I would start packing my bags. Because every time your name come up, every time that mission comes up, your name is associated with it." He said, "We're going to meet this weekend. I will call you back on Sunday about 7 o'clock and let you know if you got the mission." And so, true to his word, about 7:15, he called me and he told me that I had the mission. Now, folks, I read that book that y'all read, and I know what it says. It says you're not supposed to be anxious for nothing. But let me tell y'all something. Sometimes, when you ain't quite ready for the news that come, you can get just a little bit anxious. And I did too. At that moment, I got a little bit anxious, you know. But I learned, because see, I grew up in the church. I grew up in the Baptist church. And the saints in that church, they used to sing a song. They said, "All that I need is Jesus. He satisfies. Joy he supplies. Life would be worthless without him. All things in Jesus I find." It says, peace and joy every day I find. And when I call him, he answers right on time. But when my burdens get hard to bear, I go to him in secret prayer. All things in Jesus I find. So that's what I did. I went to secret prayer, and I asked God. I said, "God, I need a word from you for this time in my life. Not just any old word, but I need a rhema word, a R-H-M-E-A word, which is a specific word from God to a specific person for a specific situation." That's what I was in need of. And how many of you know that God ain't on your timeline? So I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for my word because I know I needed to get me through this situation that I'm getting ready to embark upon, right? And he ain't saying nothing. And I'm getting anxious again. And then this time God brings back to my remembrance my mama in that old raggedy shack that we grew up in, that 4-bedroom shack with all 11 of us in there. And she get into that wood stove. And she'd be cooking biscuits for all of us. And she would sing this song, "You Can't Hurry God. Oh no, you just have to wait. You have to trust and give him time. No matter how long it takes, he's a God that you can't hurry. But he'll be there, so don't you worry. He may not come when you want him, but he's always right on time." See, y'all got to, see that old folks, I'm one of them old-timey folks, you know. Like I said, the book I wrote, Sharecroppers, Wisdom, Growing Today's Leaders, the old-fashioned way. So sometimes we still need a little of that old-fashioned religion, they called it, right? It'll help you out now, I'm telling you now. So anyway, I'm waiting on my word, and so I go to church this particular Sunday. I'm on the security team. I'm one of the pastor's armor bearers, but this day I'm working security, and I'm up in the balcony, way up in the balcony, looking down, pulling security, but I'm sitting down all in the cut, you know, just chilling. And my bishop comes in, and he says, I'm not going to preach today. I'm going to show you folks the DVD of the message that Bishop T.D. Jakes taught us down in Dallas, Texas. He had just come back from a pastor's conference down in Dallas, Texas, and Bishop Jakes was one of the speakers. And so he put it on, and Bishop Jakes came up, and he said, the title of my message this morning is Command the Officers. Man, I jumped to the position of attention in that seat because I knew my word was coming. And he took his text, right, from Joshua 1:9. Now, Joshua is a young Israeli general, right? And God tells Joshua, he says to Joshua, Joshua, have not I commanded? Now, folks in the military, come on now. We know what that word means. When we hear that word command, it has special meaning to us, right? Have not I commanded you? That means you don't have no options. Have not I commanded you to be strong and of good courage, to fear not and be not dismayed? For the Lord thy God is with you wherever you go. Now, folks, I do like a lot of us do when we come to church. We come to church and the mighty man of God like this man right here, taking notes. You know how you making me feel right now? I'm up here talking, you taking some notes. Good God Almighty. I like that man right there. I'm telling you, something else. But anyway, when he said that, I did the same thing that we do. You know, we come to church, we hear that word, we receive the word, and we believe the word, right? But most of the time, I'm here to tell you, right, we fail to get understanding of the word. In Proverbs, it said, with all your getting, right, you're supposed to get some understanding, right? And I'm here to tell you that most of the time you don't get understanding of that word until you walk it out in your life for yourself, right? You hear what I'm saying? So here I am, right? I got my word, and I'm ready to go. And so we take off, and we leave North Carolina. We fly into Kuwait. Anybody been over there to the war in the room? Any of y'all Marines? Okay, we got one. So you know what I'm talking about. 2, 3, okay. So we fly into Arizona, right? We're at Camp Virginia, where we in process at. And then we got to go and do some additional training before we can go into Iraq. And so this particular morning we wake up, we gas up, we get in our vehicles, and we go from Camp Virginia to Camp Ewing, which is 13 miles on a dirt road. And when we get to Camp Ewing, we got to dismount our vehicles, go to the clearing barrel, clear our weapons so we don't have any rounds on inside the weapon before we go into the FOB, the forward operating base. And as I'm coming back to my vehicle, my command sergeant major comes to me and he says, sir, we have a problem. I said, what's the problem, Sergeant Major? He says, Specialist Harris has lost his weapon. Somebody said that again. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? For folks who ain't in the military, to lose a weapon is like the kiss of death. I mean, commanders have lost their command. And the sergeant major's telling me we got a lost weapon. We ain't even got into the fight. We still in Kuwait, and we got a lost weapon. And my heart went to my boots. Now, folks, do anybody here in the audience think I was thinking about Joshua 1:9 about right down then? I'm being serious with you, right? I ain't thinking about no Joshua 1:9 right now, right? I'm seeing my career just flash before my face. I see me going back home a failure, right? I did what we sometimes do. You know what that is? I took my eyes off the promise and I put it on the problem. Can't do that. And fear gripped me. You know what I'm saying? But thanks be to God, when we know who we are and whose we are, we will not allow that fear to take residence in us, right? It'll occupy space for a time, but it won't take residence in us, right? And then the other good thing is, even when we out there acting a fool, right, doing stuff we shouldn't be doing, God, he's still with us because he's true to his word. He said, I'm going to be with you regardless of whether you're thinking about me or not. When you ain't thinking about him, he's thinking about you. That's how God is, right? And so he said, what do you want to do, sir? Do you want to stop training? Nah, I don't stop training. No, training going to go on. I said, let him go. You get in your vehicle. And you go back to the way we came from on this dirt road. I'm going to get on the hardball, the highway. I'm going to go back to Camp Virginia. And I'm going to start from that end. We'll come together. This weapon has got to be on this road, right? 2 hours later, we come together. No weapon. As we said in the military, the pucker factor going up just a little bit. Anxious, right? So now I got to pull my soldiers off from the range, bring them back in. I got called to higher headquarters and tell him what has happened. And he said, find the weapon. Roger, got it, sir. And 2,200 hours that night, at close interval, dress right, dress. We're in line with the vehicles with the lights on behind us. And we walked that 13 miles back the way we came, and we arrived at 0400 hours in the morning, and no weapon. So I get on the phone, and I call my hire. I said, sir, we have searched diligently through the night, and we have not found the weapon. Folks, I cannot tell y'all the rest of that conversation. It was not good. But the summary of it was, you got 2 hours to get some gas up those vehicles, get some rest, get some chow, be back out on that road at 06 in the morning and find that weapon. Leave that to your imagination. Being real. That's how it is in the military. I'm sorry, folks. So we back out there and we walk again another 13 miles. And at 1600 hours in the afternoon, we still have not found that weapon. My ops sergeant comes to me and says, sir, the colonel and the general want to see you. Lord have mercy. So I'll go in, we engage in some small talk, and by the time they finish with what I got left, I go and I dress my soldiers and I tell them how proud I am of them, because during this whole ordeal, nobody has murmured or complained. But we came together as a team, right? I heard T.E. Borhill say one time, he said, God forges us on the anvil of adversity for a purpose only known to him. See, through that process of forging us on that anvil, beating us up and shaping us and whatnot, brought us together as a cohesive fighting team as we went through that ordeal, right? So God's still in the mix, right? So when I got through with my soldiers, I went and found a telephone. This is the day before Christmas Eve. And I called that lovely wife of mine sitting right there. And she answered me, she says, how's things going, dear? Sometimes I think it's all right to lie just a little bit. I said, said, baby, everything going good. Because, see, I done left her home with all the kids, right, and all the responsibility. And, see, she's a reserve. She's a National Guard wife. It ain't like on active duty, folks. When the whole brigade leaves, all the families do going through the same thing. In the National Guard and Reserve, she was the only one in the city of Curtisville, in probably the county of Forsyth County, that had a husband that was deployed. And so even though she working there at the church, right, don't nobody know what she going through. And I don't want to put no more pressure on her. As a matter of fact, when I got the news that I was going to go to Iraq as the head of my household, I was walking by there every day laughing, joking, having a good time, because I realized as the head of my household that the spirit that I left in that house was going to be the spirit that was going to be there while I was gone, right? So even though, I was in that place, where only me, God, and the devil know, y'all know that place. There's a place where only you, God, and the devil know. And that's where that anxiousness was. But I was shielding that. And I want to have a spirit of joy and peace and happiness in my house, because I'm setting the pace. I told you, my daddy told me, you a leader, boy. You got to set the pace, not only in the fields, but in the house, on the job, wherever you go. When you in leadership, you got to set the pace. So I'm setting the pace in my house, right? Coming around with a spirit of joy and happiness and whatnot, right? And so even though in my natural mind, I thought I was telling her a little white lie, right? Really, I was speaking faith. How things going? Things going great. Because then I didn't have my eyes on the circumstance. I didn't have my eyes on the problem. I had my eyes on the promise, right? Things going great. So anyway, we get off the phone. Then on her birthday, we fly out of Kuwait into Iraq. They fly you in at night so you can't see what's going on. And I get there and I go around, I'm meeting all the commanders, because I'm a commander. I'm meeting all the other commanders on the farm there at Anaconda. And as I go around and introduce myself, right, as soon as they hear my name, they go, oh, you the one that lost that weapon, ain't you? Because how many of you know that bad news follow you wherever you go? I don't care how you can't shake it. It's there, right? So this black cloud is following me everywhere I go. And at Anaconda, we get hit with mortars every day. They called it Mortarigaville, because we got hit with mortars so often, right? So I'm here trying to learn this job. We getting hit with mortars, and I got this black cloud over my head about this lost weapon. I don't know when they might come in and relieve me or any of this kind of good stuff. And I'm the leader, and I'm stressing out. And I'm at that point where God really likes for us to be, where when you sometimes just don't know where to go and you don't know what to do, all you can do is turn to him, right? And I'm sitting there going like, I ain't even voicing nothing out of my mouth. But just in my mind, I'm saying, Lord, I need your help. You hear what I say? I just thought the words, I ain't do like we did in the Baptist church. Lord, I stretch my hand to thee. No other help do I know. If you were to remove yourself from me, Lord, whither would I go? Nope, didn't he go there? I just thought in my mind, Lord, I need your help, right? I'm in that gym pushing iron. I go to the gym that night, and I'm pushing iron, trying to relieve the stress because I'm about to lose it, right? And when I exit that gym, it's raining. Somebody said something about some rain this morning. I believe the pastor said a little bit something about some rain coming, right? I exit the gym. It's raining because, see, in Iraq, from December to March is the winter time. And in the wintertime, it rained. And after March, from March to December, not a drop. But when it rains, it rains. I mean, it's like a monsoon, right? And I'm walking back to my hoops, just amazed at how hard it's raining. But let me tell y'all something. God used his rain. That storm left Iraq on Saturday, and it arrived in Kuwait on Sunday with the same intensity that it was in Iraq. And through that rain, God used his rain to wash that weapon that had been buried in the ground. He washed that weapon. And on Monday morning, it arose. That weapon arose. See, my guy that lost the weapon was in the last vehicle on the passenger side, right, in the last vehicle. He had a 9mm strapped to his side. His squad leader didn't do his pre-combat checks, because if he had, he would have known that it was not tied to his body. All sensitive items got to be tied to your body. He didn't have his lanyard attached to that 9mm. So on that bumpy road, it bumped out of his holster, hit that hard ground and kept moving until it came to a low-lying area, and it stopped, and the dust covered it up. And although we walked by there in the night, couldn't find it. We walked through there in the daytime, couldn't find it, right? God got away. And he used his rain to wash that weapon up on the ground. And about 10 o'clock, 1000 hours that morning, I was sitting there in my office in Ballard. And the phone rings, and it's the sergeant major from the 18th Soldier Support Group down of Arizona, Kuwait. And he says to me, "Sir, we have found your weapon." And I said, "Thank you, Jesus." And he said, "Say what, sir?" I said, "Don't worry about it, Sergeant Major. You probably don't understand what I'm talking about." I said, "But thank you for that telephone call," right? And folks, I put that phone down. And just as soon as I put that phone down, that little quiet voice, some of y'all know what I'm talking about. You know that little quiet voice that come to you, right, and speak to you from time to time. I know when I was in the church, I used to hear the old folks talking about God spoke to me. What you mean God speaking to you? I didn't understand what they was talking about, right? But I understand now. God will speak to you, right? Because, see, you got to understand there's a speaking side of prayer. And there's a listening side of prayer. And I'm telling you, the listening side is more important than the speaking side. Because when you speaking, you doing the talking. But when you listening, he doing the talking. And I just got enough sense to know that God got more sense than I do, right? So I'm going to listen to that quiet voice. That little quiet voice came to me and said, "Now, JR, do you understand what I was trying to tell you about Joshua 1:9? See, I didn't tell you there was going to be a bed of roses for you over there. I didn't tell you that you weren't going to have some challenges over there. I didn't tell you that it was going to be up and never down. What I told you was that I'm going to be with you, and I'm going to see you through every situation. So now you need to make a decision. Are you going to walk in faith, or are you going to walk in fear? Because you can't occupy both of them positions at the same time. You got to make a decision. Which way you going to roll, my friend? That was the lesson from Joshua 1:9. And he continues to talk every day, you know. He talks to us all every day if we will give an ear to what he has to say. You know, sometimes we just ignore what God says. But I'm here to tell you, just give you just a little bit of advice, right? When that voice, I have learned this through my Christian walk. When that voice comes and he speaks to me like that, let me offer you some advice. Do it quickly. You hear what I said? When God speaks to you, do it quickly, because right behind him comes the devil to kill, steal, and destroy what he just spoke to you. And if you don't do it quickly, you allow the devil to get in your mind, and he will rationalize the power of God right out of your life. He start talking to you about what folks gonna say, how you gonna be looking in front of folks and stuff like that. I got you, baby. You know, I'm gonna bring it in now. My wife said I got 5 minutes. It's getting good to me, but I gotta bring it, because I want to go home at night, you know. You know what they say, if you fuss and fight during the day, you get no peace at night. I want to get peace at night, okay? Anyway, that's how we got to be today with everything. It ain't all the big things. They said the little foxes. It's the little foxes that destroy the vine. You know, when I be talking to folks about what Pastor was talking about this morning, giving, you know what I'm saying? I tell folks, look, if you won't tithe off a dime, you won't tithe off $1 million. But see, when you tithe and give God that tithe, you tell him he first, right? Just think about this. Just popped in my head. I'm going to be through. But giving is important, right? Because I want to see people blessed. I'm going to ask you a question, right? Man, what's your name? Takesha. Takesha, if you came up here and every time I gave you $1, you gave me a dime, huh? I mean, every time you gave me a dime, I give you $1. You hear me? Every time you give me a dime, I'm gonna give you $1. Every time you give me a dime, I'm gonna give you $1. How long you think we be staying here? You be called, hey, Shanika, could you bring me some clothes down here to the church and give me some no-dos while you at it? You hear what I'm saying? Because that's what God said, hey, you give me that tent, right? He said, if you give, it shall be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Shall men give to your bosom. See, people don't understand what that means. Pressed down, shaken together so you can press it down some more, and running over. Shall men give to your bosom. See, if you want to be wealthy, you got to give. Last little story, I'm out of here. This ain't got to do that, but this is the last conversation I had with the sharecropper daddy of mine, right? July the 5th, I went by the house to see my daddy. I said, Daddy, I said, I just got promoted to a second lieutenant in the National Guard and a banking officer at First Citizens Bank. And I paused for my daddy to give me a pat on the back. And he looked at me, he said, boy, because that's what I thought my name was. He said, boy, are you tithing? I said, huh? Tithing? I said, no, sir. He said, boy, let me tell you something. He said, you ain't the sharpest axe in the shed. Who do you think is blessing you with all them promotions you getting? Yeah. He said, can't you give God 10% of everything you make? Now, folks, I was 25 years old. I know my daddy, right? I know what he wanted to hear. And I wanted to get him off my back. So you know what we do in a situation like that, right? We tell him what he wants to hear, right? And you know I said, yes, sir, Daddy, I can do that with no intentions of doing it, right? I'm just getting him off my back. Next thing come out in his mouth, he said, boy, are you going to church on Sunday? Now I'm 25 years old, you know, and I'm like, Paul, I'm chief. I'm chief among them. Man, I'm out there sinning. I mean, because I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a real good time. I'm in the military, and for the first time in my life, you know, I got some, and working at the bank, and I got soft money in my pocket, you know. Hey, I'm living the life. I said, well, Daddy, you know, I kind of go to church every now and then. He said, boy, the Lord give you 365 days to do whatever you want to do. He said, can't you give him 52 hours back? And again, I said, yes, sir, with no intentions of doing it. 2 days later, that beautiful woman right there called me on the phone. And she said, Gorham, what you doing? I said, I'm chilling at the crib. That's what I was doing. She said, sit down. I need to talk to you. She said, your daddy, Mr. Roy, he just had a massive heart attack. And your dad is dead. And everything left me. I didn't have no, I was limp as a dish rag. I had to crawl over to the bed. All my energy was gone. This is my father, the man that I look upward to. You know, he gone. Finally, I got myself together, and I packed me a bag, and I got in that car of mine, and I started home to Falkland, and on Interstate 40, between Greensboro and Burlington, God brought to my remembrance what I promised my daddy I was going to do, and I've been doing it ever since. And God has always blessed me. Has always blessed me, right? So I'm just here in my last little minute. If maybe there's somebody here in the audience, right, that don't have that personal relationship with God, that things might not be going the way you want it to go, that you're having some issues and difficulties and all that kind of good stuff, all God wants you to do is just say, come, right? He said, I stand at the door and knock. He said, if you open the door, and that door he talking about is the door to your heart. If you would just open up that door, I don't care what you did last night. I don't care what you did last week. I don't care what you got in your mind right now. He said, but if you just open up that door, let me in. I will come in and I will sup with you. And I will tell you from my own personal experience, when you do that, everything changes. I don't care what kind of problems you had in the past. He can make a way out of no way. But you got to have that relationship with God. And it starts today with you making a decision that you want to allow him to be your Lord and Savior. I ain't talking about religion. I'm talking about relationship. You got to have a relationship with God. I used to tell my soldiers, build relationships before you need, build relationships before you need them, and build them with somebody who can take your name where you cannot go. See, when you build a relationship with God, right, he's a great orchestrator. He can make things happen out of no way. I'm telling you from my own experience, I know what I'm talking about up in here. I've been walking with him long enough to know that's the best decision that you will make in your life. So if there's anybody here in the audience, right, that want to make Jesus your personal Savior, this is your opportunity. Come quickly. Come quickly. Do not allow the devil to get in your mind, right, and rationalize the power of God right out of your life, right? Because he don't want you to make that decision today. But if there's somebody who here and you want to have that personal relationship with God, this is good ground to be planted in. This is good ground. You will not, I guarantee you, if you come, give your life to Christ, and you sit in this ministry for 1 year, just 1 year, you won't be the same person. This I know. Is there anybody in the audience that might want to come? God don't force nobody to do nothing. You can just make an appeal. Anyway, well, God bless you. Thank you for being here today. Yes. Oh, my book. Okay, well, I kind of got caught up, right? Look, can I end with this like this, right? There's another book that I read. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know if anybody ever read that book, The Richest Man in Babylon. But there's a quote in that book. It says that a bag heavy with gold or a book full of wisdom. If given the choice, which would you choose? Said it's sad to say that the sons and daughters of man will ignore the wisdom, thereby losing the gold. I don't have a bag heavy with gold, but I got a book full of wisdom. Sharecroppers' wisdom. Growing today's leaders the old-fashioned way. The underlying theme of this book, in my opinion, since I wrote it, is that great things happen when a father, not a baby maker, but a father speaks into the life of his children, and they listen and they obey. because that is what I attribute to the success that I had in my life. I listened to that sharecropper daddy of mine. And because I listened to him and did most of the things he told me to do, God blessed me, okay? And so I have all that in this little book. They're out in the foyer. They're $20 for the paperback, $30 for the hardback. Every school teacher that read this book has said the same thing. Every child in North Carolina need to read this book, Sharecroppers' Wisdom, Growing Today's Leaders the Old-Fashioned Way. Bishop, thank you so very much for allowing me to be here today. God bless you. Y'all give this man, this great man, a round of applause.